In 2009, Bohemia Interactive released Arma 2, the third entry in the long-running milsim franchise, known for its incredible detail and complexity. The series also carries a reputation for being poorly optimized and frequently janky. Despite this, the Arma games have cultivated a dedicated fanbase thanks to their massive military sandboxes. Beyond the tactical authenticity and immersive realism, the standout feature of Arma has always been its extensive customization options. The robust game editor empowers players to create their own missions and scenarios, placing creative control firmly in the community's hands. These divisive ingredients have fostered a large and active modding community, which not only expanded each game in the series but also went on to spawn an entirely new game genre. In early 2012, a mod was released for Arma 2 that quickly surpassed the popularity of the game it was built for. Of course, many of you already know I'm talking about the DayZ mod, which took this sprawling 91 square mile map of Chernarus and turned the milsim sandbox into a brutal and unforgiving survival experience. At the time of its release, there was nothing else on the market quite like DayZ, an intense open-world game with a wide array of survival mechanics. Players had to contend with starvation, dehydration, cold exposure, heat exhaustion, food poisoning, diseases, infections, managing the correct blood type for transfusions, broken bones, zombie bites and scratches, and most infamously, the unpredictable dangers of interacting with other players. Once you got accustomed to the clunky controls and demanding survival mechanics, the greatest threat to your survival was other players. If you were extremely lucky, you might encounter a friendly survivor, someone who would either leave you in peace or team up with you to face the harsh world together. However, the majority of DayZ players were ruthless and selfish, often choosing to shoot on sight and take the loot you spent hours scavenging for. For many players, the PvP interactions were the game's biggest draw, which naturally inspired an add-on mod for DayZ the following year called DayZ Battle Royale, developed by PlayerUnknown. Yes, the same PlayerUnknown who would later release PUBG, igniting the Battle Royale craze that still dominates the gaming landscape today. While DayZ now holds a fraction of the cultural relevance it commanded in 2012 and 2013, it's easy to argue that without the original DayZ mod for Arma 2, the Battle Royale phenomenon that has defined the video game industry for the past 7 to 8 years might have never occurred. While a large portion of the original DayZ player base moved to the high-intensity, adrenaline-pumping action of the Battle Royale genre, another genre also experienced a massive surge in popularity: survival games. I'm not claiming that DayZ was the first survival game ever made. Minecraft, for example, had already been released the previous year. However, no other game at the time matched DayZ's level of immersion and detail in portraying survival. Its success sparked a wave of titles that adopted its unforgiving survival mechanics and intense PvP action. In 2013, games like Rust, Project Zomboid, and 7 Days to Die entered early access, laying the groundwork for the genre's explosive growth. The years that followed brought games like Ark, The Forest, The Long Dark, H1Z1, Stranded Deep, Escape from Tarkov, and many more. I bring up DayZ and the survival genre it helped evolve because Stalker 2 feels reminiscent to many of the games that I just mentioned, especially Escape from Tarkov. The Stalker video games actually go all the way back to 2007 with the release of Stalker Shadows of Chernobyl, followed up by Clear Skies and Call of Pripyat in 2008 and 2009. Go back even further, and you'll find that the Stalker trilogy was inspired and is in some ways based off of a book called Roadside Picnic. Focusing solely on the video games, the Stalker universe takes place in an alternate reality centered around the Chernobyl exclusion zone. In this version of history, there was a second catastrophic event at the nuclear power plant, which resulted in the creation of the zone, an area centered around Chernobyl, filled with mutated creatures and dangerous anomalies, which create physical hazards throughout the world such as gravity wells, bursts of fire, electrical disturbances, and more. Despite the dangers they pose, anomalies also produce artifacts, which are rare and valuable items that carry unique properties, making them highly sought-after treasures. The zone is one of gaming's most mysterious and captivating worlds, filled with atmosphere, unexplained mysteries, and hidden conspiracies that motivate the player to progress through the narrative of each entry. After the original trilogy, GSC Game World announced Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl in 2010, but the game was unfortunately cancelled just a year later at the end of 2011. Thankfully for fans and newcomers alike, Stalker 2 was re-announced on May 15, 2018, with its official reveal during the Xbox Game Showcase in 2020, GSC Game World resumed development, but on February 24th of 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and the studio found itself developing the game in an active war zone. Although many team members relocated to the Czech Republic, some chose to remain in Ukraine during development. Understandably, the war caused significant delays, and many feared that the game would be stuck forever in development hell. However, GSC Game World remained committed to delivering the game they promised. On November 20th, 2024, Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl was finally released for both Xbox and PC. It's been a few weeks since the release of Stalker 2, and it's safe to say that the game has been generally well received by critics, longtime fans, and newcomers alike. However, that doesn't mean that the game is without its flaws. Numerous negative reviews point to a variety of glitches, ranging from minor visual issues to more severe problems, such as broken game mechanics, quest bugs, and other technical issues. Despite these challenges, it's clear that GSC Game World, like many other studios with AAA releases, is committed to supporting the game post-launch. Over the coming weeks, months, and years, players can expect patches to address these issues, alongside updates, bug fixes, and DLC expansions to enhance the overall experience. Even in the past 2 to 3 weeks since the game has come out, GSC Game World has already released multiple patches to address community complaints. I just want to get it out of the way and clarify that I did not experience any major glitches that ruined my enjoyment of the game. Did that mean my experience was perfectly smooth? No. After arriving in the game's first town, my frame rates began to tank, and after experimenting with the graphical settings for the first few hours, I was able to get the game to run smoothly. I still ran into the occasional visual glitch, while also experiencing my fair share of Euro jank. I played the PC version through Xbox Game Pass, and I was genuinely surprised with the game's performance, especially considering the extent to which other players have reported being affected by technical issues. That out of the way, let me get straight to the point. Stalker 2: Heart of Chernobyl exceeded all of my expectations, easily earning the title of Game of the Year in my opinion. Is this the 4th time I've crowned a new release as Game of the Year this year? Yes, but this time it feels different. As a longtime fan of both RPGs and the survival genre, I can confidently say that Stalker 2 has become one of my favorite games ever, feeling like a perfect mix between Fallout, Escape from Tarkov, and Dying Light. Stalker 2 is a single-player open-world survival RPG. You play as the voice protagonist named Skiff, who has ventured into the zone for his own personal reasons. While his story, along with those of the supporting characters, feel a bit surface level, it's not poorly written. The writing and performances aren't particularly strong, but they serve their purpose. I don't think I'll offend anyone by saying that the story is not the main selling point of the game. Instead, the story serves as the vehicle to experience the zone of Stalker 2 and everything it has to offer. And believe me when I say that the world looks absolutely beautiful, obviously in a post-apocalyptic, dark and depressing kind of way. The map of Stalker 2 is enormous, spanning 60 square kilometers. For comparison, the Commonwealth in Fallout 4 is only 10 square kilometers, and the entire map of GTA 5 is about 48 kilometers. You'll explore the zone on foot, traveling between various marked and unmarked locations, uncovering different settlements where you can sell the loot you collect. Both the atmosphere and gameplay loop of Stalker 2 will feel familiar to fans of the Fallout games, with its focus on exploration and resource management. When I mention the gameplay loop, I'm not referring to the RPG elements. I'm specifically talking about the Bethesda-style gameplay design seen in modern Fallout games. In Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and New Vegas, a significant portion of your time is spent exploring the open world in search of better equipment and more supplies. Stalker 2 feels very similar. As you travel between settlements, you loot abandoned buildings and enemy hideouts for food, medical supplies, ammo, weapons, armor, gas masks, and more. This is when I truly fell in love with Stalker 2. Like most games, you have a limited carrying capacity. The more you hoard, the slower Skiff becomes. His stamina drains quicker the more you carry, and eventually, you'll be unable to move if you exceed the carry weight of 80 kilos. You'll start running low on ammo, food, and other supplies early on in Stalker 2, but after a couple of hours and a few gunfights, you'll find yourself with an abundance of bread, sausages, bandages, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. At this point, managing your inventory becomes critical. Skiff can carry 2 primary weapons slung over his shoulders, 1 sidearm, and a knife, with 4 slots to quickly access some of your consumables. In addition, Items like detectors, artifacts, and even a guitar can be carried, but everything else from extra guns to ammo, food, and medical supplies must be stored in your backpack. This creates an interesting challenge, especially when you begin to max out your carry capacity. I mentioned that there are 4 slots for quickly accessing your consumables in Stalker 2. The game features 4 primary categories of consumables. The first category is food, including items like bread, canned meat, condensed milk, sausages, and more. The second category includes medical supplies, like bandages which you'll need to stop bleeding, and first aid kits to restore most of your health. The third category involves alcohol and medication, which are both used to reduce radiation levels. Lastly, liquids like water and energy drinks replenish your stamina, which will help Skiff move more quickly through the harsh environment. After a few hours, as the world of Stalker 2 opens up, you'll quickly realize that one of the most effective ways to make money in the zone is by collecting and selling firearms. This is when the inventory management really comes into play, forcing you to make tough decisions. Should you pack a sniper rifle alongside your AK and shotgun before heading out? When you're out looting, do you take the most valuable weapons to preserve your speed and stamina, or do you fill your bag with as many guns as possible and sacrifice your mobility for profit? For me, the choice was clear. I'd stuff my bag with as many firearms as possible. You'd think sacrificing speed and stamina would be a major disadvantage, but consumables like energy drinks and water helped to replenish lost stamina as I ran throughout the zone. Your average playthrough of Stalker 2 will result in playing like a fat, caffeinated drunk Ukrainian in search of cheap guns to collect and sell throughout the world. If you haven't noticed already, each consumable item in Stalker 2 has a detailed animation that enhances the immersive experience. However, for those expecting a hardcore survival challenge, there might be some disappointment. Much like the story, the survival mechanics in Stalker 2 feel surface level. You'll need to eat regularly when hungry, and occasionally you'll be prompted to sleep in order to recover some stamina. Beyond that, there aren't many additional survival mechanics to manage. You don't need to worry about temperature, hydration, or overall health. Also, several in-depth features found in other survival games, like base building, battery management, and crafting are notably absent from Stalker 2. This isn't a knock on the game, but it's important to mention, especially in the context of mods for the original Stalker trilogy, Stalker Anomaly and Stalker Gamma. Both are total conversion mods that combine all the maps, weapons, and equipment from the first 3 Stalker games, creating an open-world survival sandbox. Both mod packs focus on survival, with revamped health systems, survival mechanics, and overhauled combat. They also introduce crafting, base building, procedurally generated quests, and more. Gamma in particular is a massive mod pack that adds hundreds of animations, weapons, supplies, and role-playing options with the expanded zone. If you're a fan of survival games like DayZ, I highly recommend checking out Stalker Anomaly and Stalker Gamma, as both offer an intense survival experience set in the Stalker universe. Also, it's important to mention that both of these mod packs are absolutely free. You don't even need the original games in order to play them. Back to Stalker 2, the game remains an immersive experience, even if it lacks some of the more in-depth survival mechanics. I believe this makes Stalker 2 a perfect introduction not only for newcomers to the series, but also for those new to the survival genre. For those seeking a more immersive experience, I highly recommend adjusting the settings to turn off as many of the HUD settings as possible. You may have already noticed that a lot of my footage lacks HUD elements, only showing my health and quick access slots for food, drink, and medical supplies. Personally, removing story updates, the compass, and the ammo counter not only raises the game's challenge, but also significantly boosts immersion. Speaking of immersion, some of the best moments in Stalker 2 come from the intense and tactical gunfights. This is where the game really draws comparisons to Escape from Tarkov, with its smooth and weighty gunplay. The weapons feel impactful, and their sound design emphasizes the power behind each shot. While the AI can occasionally be pretty stupid, gunfights remain exciting and challenging. To survive, you'll need to be strategic with your positioning, being particular with choosing your cover and timing your movements, especially when facing off against a large group of enemies. One of the key features of the gunplay system in Stalker 2 is the weapon's durability mechanic. Over time, weapons degrade, which impacts their accuracy and effectiveness, as well as increasing the likelihood of them jamming during combat. To manage this, players need to decide whether to spend valuable resources on repairs, rotate different weapons in and out of their inventory, or take the risk of their guns malfunctioning in the heat of the battle. This adds an extra layer of strategy, as you must balance your inventory, money, and risk management while preparing for combat. The world draws players in, but it's the intense tactical gunfights that maintain long-term interest, with the added reward of better gear serving as the key motivation for continuing to play. Now, I've pretty much explained everything that the game has to offer besides the story, and that's because it's not all that interesting. Maybe longtime fans of the series can leave a comment about what they think, but in my opinion, the story is just fine. The characters and plot are pretty surface level, but the narrative does a great job of introducing the player to the world and factions of Stalker. Stalker 2 incorporates RPG elements, allowing players to make choices that impact their journey through the zone. While dialogue options aren't as frequent or as extensive as in some other RPGs, the decisions you make throughout the game still hold weight. A standout feature is the freedom players have after making a decision. Rather than being locked into a single path, you can betray allies, shift allegiances, and navigate the factions in a more dynamic way. This flexibility allows players to shape their own story within the larger narrative, adding replay value and a sense of agency that keeps the game engaging beyond its immediate objectives. For instance, early on in the game, I was tasked with saving someone's friend in exchange for information. I found the friend, but to get him to come with me, I had to retrieve some of his supplies from a cave. The problem? There was a bloodsucker in there, and I didn't have enough supplies to take it on. After dying a few times, I decided to just shoot the friend, take his PDA, and return to get my information. The game offers several other moral options that are presented through gameplay in both the main missions and the side quests. Overall, I don't feel qualified enough to speak on the game's narrative. I've invested about 20 hours into the game, completing both main and side missions, trying my best to experience all of Stalker 2's mechanics. The game's main narrative can take up to 40 hours to beat, and if you're a completionist looking to do everything the game offers, you're looking at over 60 hours of content for a game that you can download right now on Game Pass. Even though I can't speak fully on the game's narrative, I've experienced enough to easily recommend Stalker 2 thanks to its perfect world and atmosphere, along with its gripping combat and immersive gameplay elements. The RPG mechanics are nice as well, but the main thing that will keep players engaged is the search for a new gunfight. If you stayed until the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you aren't subscribed already, please consider, as I aim to release videos like this every 2 to 3 weeks. For those of you who are already subscribed, thank you for supporting my channel. And to the 28 of you who engaged in my most recent poll, you'll know that my next video will be on another Xbox title, the new Indiana Jones game. I can't wait to see you guys then.